Welcome to the RaceGuru Thunder Hour. I'm your co-host, Rich Maletto. As always, joined by the amazing, the wonderful, the man, the myth, the legend, Sean Engel. You can find Sean on Twitter/X, whatever you want to call it, at SeanE247. You can find me on the Xbox machine at Fantasy Bosco, all spelled out. This podcast is brought to you by FantasyGuru.com and the Elite Plus Network. Please head over to FantasyGuru.com if you want to check out mine, Sean's, all of our NASCAR content, or maybe you're interested in some other stuff like it is football. Football season's around the corner. We've got crazy pricing going on. Our MVP all-in game time package, which includes all the stuff Sean and I do for NASCAR, NHL, NBA. Yes, I know they're over, but it's a 12-month deal. So it picks up start of the season next year all the way till now. MMA, PGA, $40, 12 months, get you everything except for football and baseball. But hey, who doesn't love Ray Flowers? Check out the baseball package. If you get any of the baseball packages, I believe you get the Game Time MVP promo with it. If not, you can yell at me on Twitter, and I'll get you in contact with Twitter's or Fantasy Guru support, and we'll see if we can get you set up. But, hey, Sean, the draft guide is the big thing, though. We've got to mention the draft guide over at Fantasy Guru. Head over there now. Sean, have you gone and checked? I'll be honest. I've only checked out a small bit of it because I've been busy creating some of the stuff for it. But holy crap, is there a ton of stuff right there.
Yeah, I've still only seen a little bit of the content over there at fantasyguru.com regarding the draft guide overall as it is. But the fact of the matter is I only checked it out for, say, half an hour, and I'm looking to add a little bit more, and I felt like I've barely even scratched the surface of it because there's just that much there. And so you're even adding to it, too.
Yeah, I would say there was stuff that originally wasn't a part of it that they said, hey, Rich, can you had a couple ideas. Do you want to put them on there? And so Mondo and I talked about that. That'll be coming later on. I did have a couple of things drop already this week. Look, we had a lot last year in the draft guide, and we somehow expanded it. Jeff's got super flex rankings now, which we didn't have. Russ has gone even more in depth with his dynasty rankings. The stuff Tyler and Armando are putting out is, of course, insane. I mean, Tyler just oozes numbers out his ears and eyes, man. It's crazy the stuff he just kind of knows, right? But it's great stuff. We stand by it. We love it. Look, I was a subscriber long before I was here, so I don't have to tell you. I've been loyal for a decade and a half. It's been a while. But Sean, I'm more excited for today's podcast because we have a very special guest on this week.
Yes, we do. We have a very special guest, and why don't you give us a little bit of background on them since you helped to put this together, Rich?
So we will be bringing on Jerry Jordan from Kickin the Tires. I am a big fan of Jerry's work. He is one of my, if not my favorite follow or content provider, journalist, whatever you would like to refer to him as. And I do consider Jerry a true journalist, unlike a lot of folks in the sports industry as a whole these days. If he writes it and brings it out, it's going to be happening. He's not someone to be pushing BS rumors. He is someone that is very professional, does it well, does it right. I wish we had more people in football, for example, like Jerry. But Jerry, who does work for multiple sites, but owns and is the founder and editor of Kickin the Tires. And they are a wonderful publication. You can find them on, they have we'll bring Jerry on, but they've got a website. They've got Twitter. They've got multiple journalists that work for them. So please, Sean, let's go ahead and bring Jerry on, if you will.
Yeah, let's say hello. Jerry, how are you doing today? Welcome to the Thunder Hour.
Hey, thank you very much. I don't know if I'm worthy of all that praise, though, man. That's awesome. I appreciate the kind words. But look, I was a journalist, or still am a journalist, but for 20 years of my life, I was an investigative reporter, and in the hard news sector, did stuff that put people in jail, on a regular basis. And then I decided that I'd been doing some NASCAR stuff along the way, and I said, why don't we just make this my full-time gig? And I did, and I got out of working for anyone else in 2012, and since 2012 I have been full-time kicking the tires, every day of the week.
Well, we're glad you left. Hey, as a guy that did major in political science, Jerry, I'd love to have a conversation with you sometime later down the road and talk about all that stuff, because I find it both fascinating and cool. And I'm so glad someone like you was out there doing it. But I'm just excited you did go full-time NASCAR, because I'm being dead serious. None of that stuff was made up or me blowing smoke at you, Jerry. That's truly how I feel. We need more people like you in the garage area, in my opinion. So I'm all for it, and I am very excited to have you on. And why don't you go ahead and tell everyone where they can find your work?
You can find us at kickinthetires.net. My personal X account, my Instagram, my all of that is Jerry Jordan _KTT. And then Kickin' the Tires, we have our own separate account for that. It's at Kickin' the Tires, and you can find it on Instagram, on Snapchat. I think Snapchat. You can find it on TikTok. You can find it on Facebook, and we're most prolific on X, or formerly Twitter. I built everything off of Twitter, as we were talking about in the pre-show. I antagonized Twitter for a long time trying to get a check mark, and then now I just pay $11 a month.
And I remember that. That was crazy when you were trying to get the check mark. I was trying to go to bat for you because I thought it was nuts. I'm like, how does this guy go through a background check to get a hard card, and you can't give him a blue check mark on a website? Like, come on.
I mean, look, I showed you. I spoke with the vice president of Twitter. We had drinks together, and I was with her at an event with NASCAR. So it's not like they didn't know who I was, but I just couldn't. For some reason, someone hated me at Twitter, the old Twitter. Probably for some political views, but I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I was to say that's my guess too. You, like I said, Jerry, at some point we do need to have a conversation. I don't know when I'll be down in Texas or at a race, but we need to sit around, maybe sip a little bit of bourbon and talk some smack, man, because I have a feeling you and I point some things in similar directions here that's not for everybody's eyes and ears, if you will. So,
hey, I'm an open book, man, and I'm not sure exactly where you're located, but I'll be happy to come up, and if I can swing it, one race weekend nearby, I'll be happy to stop in.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not near any tracks. The nearest track is where we're going this week, Iowa. It's about 5 hours. But I've got buddies down in Charlotte. I lived in Charlotte, but we'll figure that out, Jerry. I promise.
That'll
it's
work.
On my bucket list, man. So, but hey, let's get into last week's Sonoma reactions, right? Because I'm sure both you guys have some thoughts. If we could, I would love to interview Martin Truex to get his thoughts on his situation, because it's my understanding now that they're saying the car was packed full all the way to the whole, filling contraption was spewing, so it was packed full. But when was the last time you guys saw anyone trying to use the starter to cross the start-finish line?
A very long time, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was like shocked. I mean, it was. I didn't go to Sonoma because I went to the NHRA race at Bristol, but I was watching it, and I'm like, what in the world is going on? First off, we had 9 cautions for however many laps.
Seven cautions before we got to the halfway point. Seven before.
Yeah.
We had record cautions before we got out of the first stage, I think. So it was nuts. And then for Truex's deal, I mean, how many times are we going to see a leader this year, run out of gas or something happen? Blaney,
that's 2 weeks in a row. To your point, Jerry, I didn't even dawn on me. That's 2 weeks in a row.
Yep. And didn't something happen to? Was it Buescher that something happened to earlier this year? Like he was running first, and I guess he got chased down, with
Reddick. Yeah, he ran into Reddick, but I do feel like there was another example though, Jerry, whether it was fuel or missing or where was that? Because I feel like they ended up coasting and finishing 4th or 5th or something like that. I can't think off the top of my head.
We've had some crazy races this year, so I never expected those outcomes from Sonoma.
No, in fact, in my write-up last week, I specifically mentioned how we only had 2 cautions here last year, and it didn't even dawn on me at the time. We didn't do the stage breaks last year, so I'm thinking, man, we only had the 2 stage breaks, but we actually had 2 cautions last year. But even still, 2 for all, what was it? I forgot, 76 laps or whatever it is. And then, like I said, this week, we counted 7 before the halfway point, and then it ended up like every other Sonoma race, right? We had a couple of people drive off the track, spin out, no caution came out. Even on the last lap, we started to see some chaos, but not enough to really bring out a caution. And I was kind of wondering, because we already knew Truex was in trouble with Larson running him down, right? It was only a matter of time with the fresher tires. And that was the report I read earlier today was, honestly, if Truex hadn't run so hard to stay ahead of Larson, he probably would have had enough fuel. I'm guessing he just probably was, driving hard into the corners, out of the corners, hitting a little higher on the RPM. Hit it, Sean.
Well, the whole thing was that Truex was also trying to get ahead of Chris Buescher at the time during the late laps as well, because Buescher was the one leading in ahead. Truex had the better car that he could have been. Well, he did eventually get by Chris Buescher, but ultimately he used up a lot of his stuff just getting past him, and then Larson got by the both of them in the end.
It was done deal. It was a done deal. So I don't know what exactly happened. The team, I'm sure, knows. I mean, Gibbs has just had some weird luck, right? Like the exhaust spring for Bell the week before, like it wasn't technically a blown motor, right? Usually, I mean, Jerry, you've been around a long time. It's not. We used to hear this all the time. We got into a bad batch of parts, right? So now all the teams are, all of Hendrick Motors going through all the valve springs and the rods and everything and sorting that out. Like that was a normal thing. We would hear that, probably 2 or 3 times a year, it seemed like, So just been goofy.
Well, you got Hamlin though. Okay, so Hamlin blows up 2 laps into the race. If he pointed it out on his podcast this week, if he goes 2 extra laps in practice, or whatever, does he get a better finish because it would have blown? They could have done a motor change and he could have gone to the back of the field. I mean, Gibbs has had some crazy luck for sure.
Yeah. Well, they've had the speed, right? And that's what really makes the luck seem weird. When you're constantly up front or leading races, or you're on the verge of winning and things happen, the luck rears its ugly head. People don't think about, Brad Keselowski got really lucky, right? Reddick and Buescher got into each other, and Brad was in the right spot. Nobody says anything, well, he got lucky. It's, well, they've really been putting the car in the right place at the right time and running up front more, but luck is a 2-headed beast, right? It goes both ways. If it weren't for bad luck, you would have none, some say, but it's one or the other usually.
It's usually what happens to me at the casino.
Yeah. That's why I don't go to the casino, right? We like, around these parts, Jerry, we like to stick to sports betting. We're a little lazy, so we do some of that from our phones and online type of thing. We avoid the casinos, but we stick to the betting on winners and top fives and head-to-heads. That's more our thing. We're kind of in the Brendan Gaughan version of the gambling world.
Well, I would like to point out, I do some sports betting too, and I did last week, and the Sonoma race crushed me. Okay. I mean, man. It just crushed me. So I was like,
who'd you have for the winner?
I had Hamlin for the winner.
Oh no.
No, so let me get your opinion on this, because my wife and I talk about this. So since legal sports betting has taken place, we have seen, at least on football, Sean, I don't know how much you're betting some of the other stuff like basketball or anything, but I know in football we've seen it where the books are giving back money from injuries. Say a player gets hurt early in the game, we have seen them give back money on the prop bets. I'm very against this policy. I think it's a horrible precedent to set. You could bet the under and got lucky because of the injury. You could bet the over and got unlucky because of the injury, whatever. There's always 2 sides to every story on something like that. And the example I always give is racing in NASCAR. So do the bettors, should they get their money back because it was only 2 laps into the event? I would argue that's racing. I mean, I've done the local pools at the Indy 500 where we did give the $5 back to the first guy that was out of the race. But that was just part of that. You got your $5 back. That was it. That's going in. Hey, whoever's the first out, you get your money back. Everyone else, you don't win type of thing. I think it's a terrible precedent to set, Jerry.
I agree. And I have a background in some betting type stuff from years and years ago. I used to play pool on a competitive level around the country. And I made a living doing that for several years before I got into news or racing. And you make a bet, you pay it, you move on. So when I make a bet, I look at it this way. I've already spent that money. Anything I get back is bonus. I don't. The casino wants you to think that chips aren't money, or or you're doing it on your phone and you convert it to fantasy or whatever. That it's money, and so when I spend that money's spent. I'm just hoping that my guy wins so that I can get that money plus some additional money back in my pocket. And that's why, that's why I'm not addicted to gambling probably, but I just look at it very realistic. You either win or you lose, or in a rare occasion, you pay your dues and you push.
Right. No, you're spot on, Jerry. And I forgot that you were into the sports betting. You said the casino, and I avoid the casinos like the plague up here because I've had my fair share of bad beats on blackjack. And so that's just initially where my head goes. I mean, such a bad beat. I was calling cards and getting it right. They called the pit boss over. And my buddy was like, they think you're counting cards. I'm like, how am I down $450 if I'm counting freaking cards?
Yeah, right.
He goes, yeah, but you just called the next 4 cards. I said, I get that. But if I was freaking counting them, I wouldn't be losing,
Right.
So, anyway, back to racing. Sean, do you want to give us a breakdown on Xfinity? Because I'll be honest, I missed a good chunk of the Xfinity race. So I really don't want to talk out my butthole.
All right, so let's quickly go over the Xfinity race here. It basically ended up being Shane Van Gisbergen winning again on a road course, the second road course win in a row for him after he took the lead late from Austin Hill. The two drivers got into each other. Shane never looked back. Austin Hill with fate back to 5th. And, well, there was a lot of feelings and emotions that were out there, too. You could say, overall, maybe this was a blossoming of a new rivalry between Shane Van Gisbergen and Austin Hill after this race. I mean, there were some interesting comments said overall.
Well, and then the tire smoke thing. I mean, SVG came out and said, yeah, maybe that wasn't appropriate. But let's be honest here. I like Austin Hill, but who's he not having a rivalry with? I mean, is this going to be the third guy he's got a rivalry with just from this year? Are we going to look at a couple of years? And don't get me wrong. He's got a valid beef to some degree, but I mean, the dude's making no friends anywhere at this point.
Look,
yeah,
I like Austin Hill too, but he does make some enemies. But if you're watching Austin, please don't hit me. But when you shot the finger at SVG, you probably deserve the following of burnout of the drifting around the track behind you. So, but don't punch me in the face, please.
See, again, Jerry being honest. This is what I love, man. All right, so let's continue on, Sean. We got to admit, it was a pretty badass burnout. I mean, on the scale of 1 to 10 on some of the best burnouts I've seen, it's up there. I mean, hat tip, skill, everything else involved. Like, people get excited when they put the front bumper in the wall and they smoke the wheels off. Like, yeah, you're kind of cheating. You're using a prop. He did. He just lit them up around that whole track. Like, hat tip to you, SVG. I got to admit.
That's pure car control right there, Rich. Pure car control.
By the way, he also crushed me on fantasy. That
you didn't drink the juice on SVG?
No, I bet with AJ Allmendinger because I figured AJ would be, yeah.
You should have read the article. I pushed SVG over AJ all day long. Oh,
I know. Look, I knew it was a smart bet, but I was going with I had a parlay going, and I was like, this is the one.
All right.
Oh, that one hurts.
That just sucks, man. Hated to get deals like that. But Allmendinger, he was running good for a while there until he basically got turned around late in that going. He ended up 17th in that race.
Yeah, he was 4th when he got turned?
Yeah, top 5.
Yeah, and he was waiting. I believe he was. I believe he knows that track. He races well there. I just believe he's waiting to pounce, and bad things happen. You'll have that in big time auto racing.
I feel like that team is just slightly off a little bit on speed, but I say that SVG's done it with the same equipment. So,
right.
But there definitely seems to be something, you look at Dinger 2 years ago in Xfinity and how good and dominant he was. And I understood, last year went to Cup and now we're back. They definitely don't have the same mojo. And I'm sure personnel change. I'm big into, like, for football, I'm big into coaching and schemes. I'm sure whether it's competition director, someone in the engine department, someone on the body shop, something has probably changed, and there's probably just a little something missing. But man, that I'm hoping we see Dinger get it turned around here, but he's definitely on the wrong side of luck lately.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure. Continuing on with some of the other notes that I have here. Unlike the Cup Series where there was only one Gibbs driver finishing in the top 10, Joe Gibbs Racing had 3 of their 4 drivers ended up finishing 8th or better. The only one that did it was Ty Gibbs, and he looked like he was the only driver that had the speed that could compete with SVG throughout that race. But he got caught up in that multi-car pileup around lap 50 after he tried doing a strategy call to take tires there.
And then what was that whole thing? Because I saw the highlights of him then wrecking into, like, did he intentionally try to wreck someone that wrecked him? Like, I'm confused on what happened on that whole little segment thing where he totally demolished the car.
I think he was just trying to get away, and it just his teammate came around. I don't think that was intentional. I mean, he was hot, obviously, but I just think he was trying to get away from the fray, and it went from bad to worse.
Yeah, lost control of the car there, ended up slamming into Chandler Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sean, is there anybody better than JGR in Xfinity right now?
If you asked us on road courses, maybe there might be SVG with that at least.
Right, but I mean, as much as I want to cheer on JRM, as much as Stuart Haas has looked solid, I feel like JGR is literally a full tier ahead of everybody else right now.
They usually are, though. I mean,
that's fair. That's fair, especially at the Xfinity level.
I mean, they're a Cup team running the Xfinity Series. Okay, I mean that's basically what it is. That's where, and they've always been. They had Kyle for years, and now they don't. But they built off of all of that. And then they've got you've got Denny, you've got Truex, you've got all these great Cup drivers. That can give input and teach these young drivers, and that's exactly what's going on. And I don't know if he's doing it with, Gibbs per se, but Kurt Busch is a mentor through the Toyota program for these young drivers. So I know that he is helping because I've talked to him about it just a few weeks ago. He's helping these young drivers and giving them things to focus on. Helping them with marks and helping them with control and different issues through not only just driving but in life and things to de-stress and to focus inside the car. So Kurt's helping a lot of those younger development drivers in Toyota, and I think that program overall is good.
It is. Toyota's done a great job, and I think what's really caught my eye, Jerry, is they're doing it with a bunch of part-time drivers too. And I understand, it's one thing to be bringing down John Hunter Nemechek and Ty Gibbs, right? And these guys that have run recently in their program and in their cars, but Eric Almirola, Ryan Truex, we're seeing guys just kind of step in and be fast regardless that haven't even, been in a car much lately. And you're right. This has been the deal. This is nothing new, Jerry. They've been this way. It's a shame that we're losing Stuart Haas because I feel like they were kind of at least knocking on the door with 1 or 2 cars, from the week. JRM historically, they've been right there at least the last couple of years. And it feels like they're kind of coming back into their own a little bit, but I'm all for parity. I don't necessarily like how NASCAR approaches to try to get parity, but I do like it when we have at least 2 or 3 teams competing against each other at a similar level. And I don't know that we have that in the Xfinity Series right now.
No, I can see where you're coming from with that.
All right, Sean. So what else we got? Because I see we got some more beefs you need to talk about.
Yeah, there were actually 2 more beefs and confrontations that we had. One that was on the track and one that was off the track based on the Xfinity Series. You had Parker Retzlaff versus Ryan Sieg confronting each other after the race as it is. And then there was some Twitter beef between Chandler Smith and Jeremy Clements. All just based on the fact there, the Parker Retzlaff and Sieg beef was due to their contact on track where Sieg made contact and then Parker did not like that. He spun him out the next lap and ruined Ryan Sieg's day right there. And then Chandler Smith was talking. He was actually replying to a tweet based on Stephen Stumps of FrontStretch.com's post when he was talking about how SVG was not even past the entire Xfinity race. And then Chandler was pointing out, hey, I ended up passing 51 cars that day. And then Jeremy Clements was like, oh, but I'm sure 4 of those was me because you wrecked me. And they had a back and forth after that on Twitter.
Hey, I doubt Jeremy's watching this. And Jeremy, you can hate me. You can punch me in the face. I don't care. You need to start running better before you start talking smack like that for a guy that is going to be in the running for the Xfinity Championship. And newsflash, we use you as a free square at the very back of the pack because we think you'll finish a race, and that's about all we're looking for. So just throwing that out there, Mr. Clements.
Whew. Shots fired.
I'm just saying. I like Chandler, and Chandler did nothing wrong there, in my opinion, and that was someone just stirring the pot to be a jerk, in my opinion.
And as far as Ryan Sieg, I'm not saying anything because the last time I said something about Ryan, I got banned. I got blocked on Twitter.
Seriously, what'd you say about poor Ryan?
Oh, who knows? It was I think it was from an event at Mid Ohio years ago. But that's okay. Ty Gibbs has blocked me before too. So,
well,
we're all
I
good
can
now.
see Ty Gibbs. I kind of like Ryan. I mean, he's usually a little no nonsense, but here again, not to be mean, Ryan, if you're going to be a big time dog and start blocking people like that, you need to start running like top 10s on a regular basis type of thing. So Ty Gibbs he's a spunky little feisty one. I still love the fact that most people don't realize how much he and Corey Haim hate each other. Like, I want Corey Haim and Cup simply because of that.
It'll be interesting. I like Corey and I like Ty. It's
I'm with you.
We need some rivalries. We need some,
right?
we need stuff where we're like, oh, we're going to hang out in the motor coach and play, Xbox, or whatever. I want these guys going at it. I want to see, action on the track. And I think we got away from that in NASCAR for a while. And I think it's starting to come back, and that is a very good thing for the sport.
I totally agree. And you know what I think is missing? The beefs we used to see on the track were just that. They were on the track. Those guys were friends still off the track. Yeah. But boy, they knew when it came to competing, I'm the best. I'm going to be the best. And I don't care who stands in my way. And when we take the helmet off, well, it doesn't matter. But when the helmet goes on and I'm in that car, it's go time. And we don't have it. And honestly, Jerry, I think we're missing that in a lot of sports in general. I don't think we see that as much in football as we used to. I don't think we see that in basketball as much as we used to. I'm sure free agency and players and athletes switching teams has played into it more. But I'm with you, Jerry. We're starting to get it back a little bit in NASCAR, and I'm with you. I'm here for it. Sean and I have talked about this before, and this is – I was seriously pissed at how quickly Gibbs came up and Haim is so slowly dragging behind, because I feel like they were much more on par than people were giving them credit for. And I'm with you. Having them come up and compete against each other and battle, we need that in the sport right now. We really do.
I think a lot of it, the lack of it is not only sponsorships and stuff like that, but I truly believe it's some of the everybody gets a trophy mentality, and oh, we'll just try again next week, and and go back. Where's the fight? Where's the passion?
Right.
Mm-hmm. We need that.
All right,
here.
Sean. We keep derailing you here, man. So rattle through the rest of it, because we definitely got some news and notes you want to get to.
All right, so I'm just going to quickly cover some standout finishers from the Xfinity race to point out. We ended up getting Sheldon Creed in second. We got Sam Mayer in third.
See? Todd, second. Don't be hating all the time. It's going to happen, especially on the road courses. Sorry, Sean.
You have Austin Green getting his first career top 5 finish and his best career Xfinity finish in 4th place, driving for Jordan Anderson Racing. Justin Allgaier in 6th. Chandler Smith ended up coming back to 7th with a highly damaged race car. John Hunter Nemechek was 8th. Custer 9th. Parker Kligerman gets his 9th consecutive road course top 10 finish in the 10th position. And then I'm also going to point out Brennan Poole in 14th. He ended up being the highest place differential scorer of the entire race right there, Rich.
That's key. That is something big to know.
What was that? How did
I was
this
going to say,
fireworks?
you know, Jerry's screen, he was like in fireworks.
Holy smokes, that was cool. I was like double thumbs up for Brennan Poole. He's a Houston kid, and you know I love Brent. And then I did this, and then the fireworks went off. I'm not sure exactly what the heck happened.
I don't know.
Amazing.
Sean must have did something by mistake. I don't know, but
Awesome.
that's cool to know, because that is not a name we talk about most weeks, Sean. So just something to note. You know, Brendan Poole has flashed at times. You know, I think, you know, sometimes he doesn't always have the equipment with him. Is unfortunate, but very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. Blaine Perkins in 18th ended up being the highest finishing RSS racing card there. And Boris said he ended up finishing 28th for Hendrick.
It was disaster from the word go, and I apologize to everybody who I thought he would show us at least the top 10, top 5 type performance in that car that dominated last year. He is way over his head, and he just needs to park it. And I'm sorry, Boris. I love you to death, bud.
Yeah, he crushed my parlay too.
Okay. All right. So I wasn't alone. That makes me feel a little better, Jerry. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. He killed me. That's okay. Hey, that's the cool thing about fantasy sports or betting on sports or whatever is, you know, there's another game, another race or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's, I do it in moderation, do it for what you can afford, have fun with it. It's just out of my entertainment budget.
It's good advice.
You said it perfectly. You said it perfectly. We don't need that 1-800 disclaimer number. We got Jerry. He said it perfectly.
Let him be the new disclaimer.
Well,
That's right.
Look, what was that? Year before last, I wrote like every week a gambling column, and I did my picks. I did my favorites, my mid pack, and then my long shot. And I did not think. And then we have Cole Cusimano and his brother Steven doing picks and podcasts for fantasy and for betting now. But when I was doing my column, I didn't think it was right. And I went to NASCAR and I told them, I'm like, look, I am going to bet on the sport. Okay. Because I'm giving advice. And if I'm going to give this advice, it's hypocritical not to bet it. So I always bet $5 or $10 on all of my picks just to show that I'm sincere about this. And anybody could have come and audited it because that's what I did. You know, I want to be completely honest. And NASCAR's like, we would rather you be honest about it than say you're not doing it and then someone find out that you are.
Wow. I'm just waiting, Jerry. I don't know. I dream of the day where we have windows like at horse tracks, at the NASCAR tracks. Like I want trifectas. I want to be able to bet like we do the ponies, and I'm waiting for it. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I feel like NASCAR is really missing the beat on this, at least at Vegas, at least at some of these places where we already have statewide books, because it's a way to draw more fans to the sport that I don't think otherwise would consider it.
If we ever get that at Talladega or Daytona, I'm just going to box the field. And
that's a good idea. That's a good idea, man.
And just pull the long shot, because I mean, your odds are good that you're going to get money off of that. It'll cost you a lot, but your odds are good if you box the field at one of those races. Generally, the favorites don't win.
No, Sean and I talk about it all the time. This is the week to bet the long shots. We'll tell you, hey, some of the guys that, you know, here are the favorites, but most of our bets that we push when we go to Daytona, Talladega, and even Atlanta now is we're looking specifically at drivers on the low end, 15-1, more moderately, more closer to 30 to 40-1, and we'll throw out there a couple of real long shots. And
I bet Michael McDowell I had bet on Michael McDowell to win, and that was I actually won the first 3 races of the season that year.
Oh wow!
Did very well.
So on this very podcast earlier this year, we pushed Roger Carruth at 80-1 when he won.
I called that too. I didn't bet it, but I said that kid, I think I wrote it in a column or something, or put it on Twitter. I said, that kid's going to end up in victory lane.
I said, the odds are wrong. I wrote it in the article. The odds are way off. They're going to come down after practice and qualifying, which they did. Came down to 16-1. We pushed it again. It hit. Then the following week at Atlanta, or maybe it was the previous week.
Vegas was the week after Atlanta.
After, right.
Yeah.
So the previous week at Atlanta, Sean and I are doing this show, and we said Daniel Suarez's odds at 35-1 are stupid here. Like, he's actually run well here. This is not, the odds are not matching up with the actual historical performances. We said at the very least throw a buck or two on it because it's very wrong. The following day on race day, it moved to 45-1. We doubled down, said, folks, hit this. Those, honestly, Jerry, those are some of our prouder moments because when you start making calls at those kinds of odds, it's
right.
significant money makers, right? I mean, we didn't have a bunch of people bet a bunch of money, but we had numerous members or subscribers to the website say, look, I did what you said. I put $2-3 on it and I won a couple $100, man. I'm in good shape, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, like I said, I'm not shocked you had those calls because Sean and I said, if anyone that's followed this sport is seeing these numbers, they'll tell you they're wrong. I said, right. I don't know what the books are looking at. Raja's with a better team. And he did okay on the okay team. Like, I don't understand what you're looking at. And, man, I'm a little disappointed with how Raja's come around the rest of the year, but I have high hopes for this kid too, Jerry.
He's got a lot of talent, and I think he's got a good future.
I do too.
Yep.
All right, Sean. Sorry, we keep derailing you, bro.
It's all good. We're all having fun, just talking here, and that's what matters more than anything, right?
As long as it's good content, I think we've had some good stuff we've been able to discuss today. So,
yeah, there you go. Let's just skip right over to some of the news headlines that are coming up here. Let's talk about this one because this one is big. We keep discussing about this point each and every year. Now it looks like it might actually be happening. Martin Truex Jr. is expecting to announce his retirement at the end of 2024 this week, guys. So quick thoughts on this.
I'll weigh in because I asked Martin last year and how long he was going to keep doing this. And I like Martin. He's always been very good to me. And he said, when it's not fun, I won't do it. And he can go, he fishes, he hunts. He can do whatever he wants. He's built a good life for himself, and he can always go, lobster fishing or real fishing or hunting or whatever. He's going to enjoy life, and it hasn't been fun behind the wheel. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've been getting that impression too. I know Martin's talked about his hunting towards various reporters before, and he's talked about his interest being on a boat fishing and all that. And he talked about having like a bigger boat, I think, to one of the other reporters, saying that he couldn't wait to try and get back to one of these days when he's done driving. So it's going to be interesting to see over that. But according to Bob Pockris at FoxSports.com, the top candidate to replace Martin Truex Jr. is Chase Briscoe.
I could see that.
That seems odd to me. If I was to see here again, you wouldn't do it because you have Ty Gibbs there. I'd be going after Corey Heim personally, but
yeah, you're not going to get Corey Heim and Ty Gibbs on the same team. I don't see that happening.
They used to be though. At ARCA, they were both on Gibbs.
I understand,
but that was like what 6-8 years ago. So things have changed a little bit.
We already know that Ty is not afraid to wreck his teammate to win.
Okay. Yeah, true story. Brandon Jones remembers that fondly.
But
Jerry, you do see Briscoe as a good fit over there at Gibbs?
I think he'd be okay. I don't think you could go get Barry because I think Barry's going back to the going to go back to the Dale Jr. fold or whatever that group's. I don't know. I'm very leery of where everyone's going to end up with all the charters that are up in the air, and with NASCAR not having a deal yet because of the stubbornness of what's going on, and it's look, Tony Stewart got out of this because he wasn't making money and he wasn't having fun. Okay. And you look at SHR, and they had a crappy sponsor with Nature's Bakery, and then they lost him on top of that. So they never, they had money they lost there. Then they lose Busch Beer. Then they lose Gear Wrench. Then they lose, they went through like Smithfields. So they went through like four major sponsors. That's expensive. Okay. Yeah, and now you got charters. The only hope that these guys can do to get their money back is to dump their charters for $30 million and walk away and retire.
That's a
Well,
crazy
and
reality.
Sean and I have heard some crazy things. There are more rumors than anything else, so I'm not going to spread them here. And maybe off the record, Jerry, you and I can talk about a couple of these because there's some interesting ones I'd love to get your thoughts on. But this seems to be a very common theme, right? Truex saying he's not having fun. Stewart not having fun. I've heard rumblings that there's a lot of folks in the Hendrick shops that aren't having fun.
It's not fun in the media either, just for the record. I'll say it. It's not been fun in the media lately either. Okay. Where, the limitations on the number of people that can go to a track with credentials, the lack of, availability on certain things. It's just the lack of transparency on a lot of stuff. I'm a guy that has every single email for NASCAR since 2012. So I know what they've said and I know what they've done. And I haven't called them out. I want to see where it's going. I have a lot of friends that work at NASCAR, a lot of friends in the comms department, a lot of friends up the ladder, up the corporate ladder. And I believe them when they tell me it's going to get better. But right now I'm not seeing it. I see some good racing on the track, but I've seen some other stuff that makes it, we're not doing what we need to do in some areas. And that probably needs to be figured out by smarter people than me. But when you've got teams and drivers that dropping out because it's not fun anymore, you might want to look at it. That's my only concern.
And that's where I was kind of going with it. Is it's really a shame that we're seeing this as a common theme. When I'm with you, we've had some of the best finishes in NASCAR history of the entire sport just with this year alone. And look, there's a lot of things I don't like about this car. There's a lot of things that I have been very concerned about this car overall. But for years, we have really struggled at these intermediate tracks to put on a good show. And that's been a lot better lately. I know the aero blocking is still a thing, but it's been better. We've made strides in that regard. And it's unfortunate that if that's the case, I don't know. I don't know what the answer. I'm with you, Jerry. I don't know what the answer is, but it's a little concerning to me to see a common theme of teams and owners and drivers not having fun when we're seeing some good product on the track. Because if we're not going to get both, it's going to be a hard time getting the fandom. And the fandom's there right now. The excitement seems to be there, but it's not going to hold if people aren't having fun and they're losing drivers and teams.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into one more story here. I want to put this one on while we have Jerry here because I want to get his take, seeing how he covers a little bit IndyCar as well. He might have some insight into this. But on the Dale Jr. download this week, Mario Andretti ended up appearing. And during the podcast, he was talking with Dale Jr. and was dropping a potential hint or two towards NASCAR involvement for Andretti Motorsport. Jerry, I'd like to get your thoughts on this. What do you think about Mario Andretti's comments?
I haven't gone in depth on them. I heard what was said, but I'm like, I don't know what he was getting at. I mean, there's so many crossovers and things that's been trying to happen with different things. I mean, we're hearing that Dana White is going to do something with,
electric
Formula
cars.
E and NASCAR and electric cars. And then we got Andretti and NASCAR. And I think, again, we need to focus on NASCAR, not IndyCar, not, just let's get focused. Let's do what we're used to, let's get back to the good stuff.
Now, Jerry, I heard a rumor and I never found anything. So it's literally a rumor that there was some Andretti money behind the whole Spire and buying the 40 million charter last year. Is there any sort of link of Spire, Andretti, or any other teams that you've heard of with Andretti in any way, shape, or form?
Well, first off, you'll never get me to believe that was $40 million. But I'll never believe that it was 40. I'm not going to say that it wasn't over 30, but I don't think it was 40. But that's just me, and I'm going off some information that I had. It may have gotten close. It may be 36. I don't think it was 40, but that's just me. I know when the Spire charter first sold, I believe it sold for 5.6. And I had an investor that is highly invested in Houston, in the Houston area, and he was interested in buying a charter, and he would have put $5.5 million into it, and that charter went for more than that amount. So, but I know Denny paid 15 for one, roughly a few years ago. I asked Brad Keselowski about it. He didn't want to commit to that type of a number. He also said he wasn't sure at the time whether or not we'd even have charters, because NASCAR and the team owners can't seem to get their act together on an agreement. So, what is the true numbers on these charters? Who's involved? Would it surprise me that Andretti's part of it? That would not surprise me, no. But
okay.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of, I don't know quite the right word for it, but I just don't. I think there's the smoke and mirrors there.
Okay. I don't doubt it. And some of it could just be because of the whole blackballing by F1 and missing out there. And I know they're still trying to go that route. I just found it very interesting, because I always thought it was weird, whether it was 36 million or 40, that was a lot of money for Spire to come up with out of the blue. And it just seemed odd, because I remember going, where's this influx of money coming from? Because nobody else seems to have an influx of money. Danny got an influx, so to speak, by Jordan, right? Trackhouse did at one point. I can't remember who was investing there, but there's always either been a person or at least an entity behind the dollars, and it was just sort of out of the blue on that. And I just kind of wondered, and then seeing this comment from Mario, it's like, okay, was there some under the table stuff that we didn't know about? Because I'm with you, Jerry. One of the biggest challenges I have, and look, quite frankly, the NFL's been this way too, is the lack of transparency. I think it's a problem. I think it's a very legitimate and real problem, especially in NASCAR. And it plays to exactly what you're talking about. Like you just said, you don't think it was 40 million. And I'll be frank, Jerry, I believe you. I believe you. I trust you. If you tell me that's the case, I believe you that that's the case. So then the question is, why are we throwing out some bullshit fake numbers that everybody's running with and calling it as lock solid gold? Is this a game to try to inflate the dollars because the charters aren't worth what people are hoping they're worth, because it's not working as the way they designed it? I mean, the guy that was kind of the brainchild behind it left, right? Rob Kaufman was a big part of what started it to begin with, and he's not in the sport anymore, right? So I'm with you, Jerry. That's why I said, like, I'm sure you and I could have a dinner and sit around, dessert, and talk and drink and talk about a lot of this stuff, because there's a lot of intricacies and interesting points. And I'll be the first to admit, Jerry, I don't have the insight that Sean and I get is very, very small compared to you by a large margin.
Well, in fairness, I could be off, but that's 36 is 10% less than what was said. And I talked to a lot of the people involved, and no one would ever give me a number. And when I ask about the 40 and I ask about the 36 and I ask about numbers, I've been an investigative reporter a long time, and I watch how people react and watch what they say and how they say things. That's just my personal belief. Somebody may roast me in the comments and say I don't know what I'm talking about, but maybe they're right. But I think there's some. It behooves the team owners to say that the charters are worth a whole lot of money, especially if they're fixing to sell and start retiring.
Oh, I agree. And like I said, Jerry, I literally do believe you, man. I trust your gut instinct. I trust the people you look. I said this at the beginning of the show. We know, if you put it out there, it's true. So let's move on to Iowa. We've got Iowa, and this is interesting. I will be frank. I would love to have read what you wrote if you were still doing a gambling and betting article. Because Sean, I don't know. I don't know how you feel, because I had to do the preview before practice and qualifying, right? And we got a condensed schedule, but at least we're going to see practice on Friday, Sean. We have the least amount of data ever as far as what to do for this event, because the last time we raced here was Trucks and Xfinity back in 2019. We have since done a repave. The Cup cars have never been here. Interestingly enough, all but 3 Xfinity drivers are now racing in that run at Iowa, are now racing in the Cup Series, right?
Yeah.
A couple of them won in trucks, but we don't have, like, Jerry, Sean and I have the NASCAR credentials, so we got the Fantasy Central stuff that they post and the loop data and all that stuff, and we pull from some of that and some other sources. I went to it today just to see what was there. There wasn't even a link. Like, there's nothing. There is nothing for this weekend on that side of the coin.
There's actually some data that you're not thinking about. Tell me a driver in the Cup Series who consistently wins at the first time we show up at a track or a reconfigured track or whatever.
Oh, shit.
Joey Logano.
Yep, that's my pick for this weekend.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Logano in particular when he goes to new surfaces and brand new tracks. He's always very highly competitive. He won the very first race at the Clash of the Coliseum, I remember, and that's really when they started pointing this out consistently, that Logano does that. He's
very good on new tracks, and you know he was looking okay last week. He was looking okay. You know he's going to be up there in the front. I will easily put money on him to be up there. If I get a top 3 bet, I'm definitely taking him.
Well, let's see. Let's see the odds on him right now, because I just had him up. I want to say for
plus
top 3
to win.
Right. So I think he was minus, or top 3, he was probably still plus 180. Do you have it there in front of you, Sean?
Plus 250 for top 3.
Plus 250 for
top 3.
Not bad.
It's plus money. You don't have to drink the juice.
That's right. I'll bet.
I mean, there's something to be said about that.
What's that? Pay 50 on a $20 bet?
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Regarding the other drivers, Logano is the fourth lowest odds there. Only Hamlin, Larson, and Bell are lower than him.
Of course, Larson, because Larson, he's always the favorite every single week, it seems like, or close to it.
He's always top 3 or 4 every week. Every week.
Yep. He is a very, very talented driver. And I was going to write a column about him after the Indy 500, and I let it go just because I didn't want to. There was one time I didn't want to burn bridges with him. It wasn't that. I didn't want to. I was going to piss off some people in NASCAR just because the whole waiver thing. The kid.
Oh, we must have been on the same. We must have been on the same side of the equation there, man. Because I know I was calling out some of the NASCAR folks for, and maybe not. Maybe you were more on the he doesn't get one. Let's stick to NASCAR side. No,
I think he deserved a waiver. I went so far as to ask how many gallons of jet fuel they used up flying him back and forth to Indy from Charlotte. Okay, how many flights? How many segments did he make? How many gallons of jet fuel? I was working on getting all this together. Okay.
Oh, to show he tried, that he did everything he could.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He had every intention, but then when you're sitting there, and let me. I hate to get us off of the Iowa, but since I didn't write it.
Run with it.
Go for it.
So I was in Indy, and I was there to cover him. It's supposed to rain in Charlotte. Okay. We knew that there was going to be rain in Charlotte. We knew that there was going to be rain in Indy. So what do? Do you not run Indy and go to Charlotte and then, oh, great, you're only going to run half the race now? And you blow off, millions of dollars in the Indy program? Or do you think NASCAR has a policy of let's not start a race that we cannot run to the finish? That is what I've heard 1,000 times. And it just they say they don't start races to run to halfway. Well, that is what they did. And that can't be blamed on Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson raced the Indy 500. He could have won the darn race, okay, but he made a mistake on pit road. And, I have a photo of him on the top of the board. That was only because of pit stops. But truthfully, he was up in the top 5 when he hit that issue on pit road. So, I think he could have been up front. I think he could have at least probably had the best finish ever of a NASCAR driver in the Indy 500. I think he could have possibly won the race or been, battling for it. He did everything he could to do that race. He did everything he could to do the Charlotte race, knowing that there was going to be rain. So, and he even stood around with a helmet on, hoping that they would go back racing so that he could get in the car. So, that's my take on it. And I applaud Hendrick and him. Errol McLaren and everybody involved for that program. It was great. And, let's get back to Iowa because I've got plenty of time, just by the way. So just whatever y'all want to do. But I wanted to divert just a little bit just to say that, Larson deserved that waiver.
I'm glad you did. Sean and I are in agreement with you. And Sean and I kind of talked this to death on some other pods. And I said, look, as a guy that my first experience at a track was 3 years old, being handed over the fence at Indianapolis for practice and qualifying. My grandfather had tickets for 40 years to the 500. I was going from 1987 on and was spoiled. That event, to me, will always be the pinnacle of motorsports. The Indy 500 is something very, very, very special. And I was with you. He was in equipment that was capable of winning. He was showing speed that was capable to be up there. And whether people want to knock him or not, just so folks know, for years it was common for guys to come up from USAC or these other open wheel type sprint racing and go Indy 500 racing. Stan Fox. These guys did it pretty regularly. This was a goal of theirs. This was all the thing. And Kyle Larson's goal is to be one of the best drivers ever, not best driver in NASCAR. And like I told someone, I said, the people that don't want him to have a waiver, there's only one of two reasons the way I see it. They're butthurt that the Indy 500 is still a bigger event than anything NASCAR can put on, or they have a problem with Kyle Larson and they don't want him competing for the championship, and they think the current championship is silly and dumb. So that's where it lies to me. I really didn't care if he got the waiver or not because I felt like it was going to either poke holes in NASCAR's championship and really make them look foolish, or they were going to give him the waiver, which frankly, I'm all for anybody that does things that brings more eyes and more butts in seats at these racetracks. I watch anything racing.
As I said, I was at Indy. There were lots of fans that were IndyCar fans that were talking about the NASCAR race when I was up in the stands shooting photos. And so I think that he definitely accomplished that. I want to say one thing. I did break a story last week. You were talking about other drivers. Austin Prock, who's in the NHRA, he races for John Force Racing. John Force says he's going to do everything he can to get Austin Prock in an Indy car. He used to race out of Tony Stewart Racing Shop in midgets and dirt racing, and he knows how to go in late models. So he knows how to go, round and round. And Austin Prock, a quarter mile, fifth, 1/8, whatever mile that they cut the NHRA top fuel down from a little bit, but whatever they do over there, he's wanting to turn it into 2.5 miles at Indianapolis 500, and I think he's got a good shot of actually making that happen.
I hope we see it. The more I'm of the opinion, the more crossover driving and drivers we get, the better all racing will be, and the better racing as a professional sports will be. I'm convinced of it. We just honored Parnelli Jones, and I don't think people realize how much different racing Parnelli Jones did over the years. We talk about his Indy 500 stuff, but these old school drivers drove anything with wheels anywhere. The Mario Andretti's we just talked about, the AJ Foyts. I mean, even Jeff Gordon and Tony Stewart. And, we talk about these guys and flame them, with love and passion. And then we want to knock somebody who's trying to do the same. And I just don't get it, So I'm impressed with the approach you had, trying to show that with Larson, because I hadn't thought that angle, but that was a really savvy, smart angle. He did everything he could. And I told someone, you're telling me you expect him in the middle of the Indy 500. I need to get out now because I got to go to Charlotte to make sure I'm there on time. Said BS. You do not get out of that car for the Indy 500.
Look, the flight plans, I pulled the flight plans. The flight plans were to be wheels up around 4:15, 5 o'clock, somewhere in there, so that he could make it to Charlotte to start the race. So that was the original plan. They stayed with those plans until they saw the weather reports on both sides. And what do? You're not going to throw it all away, and I don't blame you.
Hey, hindsight being 2020, what would you rather do? Race the full 500 or race half the 600?
Full 500 any day of the week.
Exactly.
There you go.
So anyway, back to Iowa, Sean. I'm making notes on Joey Logano because, quite frankly, Jerry, I hadn't thought that angle. I'm basically in the ballpark of, because of Christopher Bell, how he ran here last time Xfinity, because of how he's been running lately, because I went back and looked at data from Richmond and St. Louis, and my logic for it was similar flat track banking. St. Louis, yes, is longer. Richmond's more in the right size. Neither of them are great comparisons, but I figured racing is kind of a recent history kind of thing. So that's kind of where I started looking at. And I got to be frank, I'm kind of looking at Christopher Bell a bit this week.
Didn't Bubba race Iowa?
Yeah, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
He
that's what I thought.
did in the Xfinity, I believe, and maybe even a truck race too.
Yeah, I thought he had some experience at Iowa. So that's another one that, might fly under some people's radar.
Yeah, there's a bunch of drivers in the Cup field in particular that have ran at least races at Iowa in the Xfinity or the Truck Series at this point. I'd say it's more than people would even think as well, too. Just because we've seen a couple of different winners. I actually saw on one of the NASCAR social media pages earlier that Iowa was actually the very first track where William Byron got his first ever Xfinity Series win, for example.
Oh, that was his first ever win, because I noticed him in the column and I didn't realize that was his. Oh, or was that his first truck win?
No, he got his
the
first
only
Xfinity
driver to win both. He's the only
both.
driver that's won both trucks and Xfinity. Let me pull that
Interesting.
Because I noticed that as I was looking at previous winners. Let me pull that back up. But because Sean, you specifically had a question for Jerry. When we talked about bringing Jerry on, you specifically said, I would love to bring him on before Iowa, and you wanted to ask him about this particular activity. Why don't you take off with that? I know that.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, Jerry, what do you think about the potential track conditions since the track has been partially repaved now overall? How do you think that will affect the racing this week?
I asked someone about it last weekend, and I'm afraid it's going to be disastrous. But, what did they say? What was the comparison? I think they compared it to Bristol, if I'm not mistaken. When they redid was it levigating, or was that at Charlotte where they did the levigating?
Well, Bristol, they did the progressive banking, and everybody lost their marbles after they did that.
I think that Charlotte and Bristol both came up as concerning to this driver, and pointing back to, this probably wasn't the right way to do it, but they'll go out there and race and see what, they don't have a choice. And it's going to be interesting seeing, partial asphalt redone. How's it going to affect the grip? How's it going to affect, handling? I don't know. Should they have done it in the other half of the track instead of the part of the track that they did it in? That was one of the questions that I was, that was posed, or the statement that was posed to me about when I asked the question.
That's very interesting that we bring up the Bristol comparison, considering we saw the Bristol race earlier in the year. Tire wear was a very, very big thing overall, and that played into the hand of the veteran drivers that knew how to save their tires. So do you think we're going to be seeing a lot of that this week, like another repeat of Bristol despite a different rules package?
No, it was the comparison they were making was when they redid Bristol several years ago and screwed it up.
Oh, okay.
Right. Because fans hated the fact the bump and run wasn't needed anymore. You actually had 2 or 3 racing grooves, or 2.5 at Bristol. I was one of the ones that kind of liked the new Bristol.
Yeah.
I get people like the bump and run. I enjoy a short track race with door-to-door racing, and I didn't need the bump and run, but I was definitely in the minority. I personally don't think tires are going to be a thing, Sean, just because every time we go to a new track that's fresh paved, tire wear seems to not be an issue. If they start running up where it's a little older, I guess I could see that be an issue, but I don't think you're going to see drivers do that, because I think they're going to find better grip and more speed on the new pavement, which I fear is going to lead to a single groove track, which is where my concern is more lying with. By the way, I was wrong. It's 3 drivers have won both in trucks and Xfinity here. Ryan Blaney, William Byron, and Eric Jones.
Yes.
Eric Jones would have been a good pick if you could have gotten him in the top 3 last week. Just saying.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Mm-hmm. So let's quickly go over the part-timers and notable starts list here that I have set up. Now, for Cup, it's a very short list, but for Xfinity, we have a whole list of drivers here. So I'm going to just rattle off a bunch here. For Xfinity first, JD Motorsports, their 2 drivers this week are Dawson Cram and Garrett Smithley. You have Patrick Emmerling in the 07 for SS Greenlight Racing, Daniel Dye is in the Kaulig Racing number 10 this week. David Starr is in the second SS Greenlight card, the 14. And then for the Toyota drivers at Gibbs this week, we have an interesting name here that we weren't expecting. Brett Moffitt's in the 19 there. And we have JHN in the 20, of course.
Interesting. I just saw David Starr earlier today.
Oh, did you? I got a little high hopes for Mr. Moffitt this weekend. I can't lie. I do. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, continuing onward, we have Corey Heim in the Sam Hunt Racing number 26 this week. Joey Gase is back in the number 35 for Joey Gase Motorsports. Joey Gase Motorsports is trying to run the number 53 as well, but as of right now, looking at the list, we do not know who's driving that car. That's subject to change potentially. And then we have in the second DGM Racing car, the number 92 this week, we have Ross Chastain driving that car.
Like Joey Gase and Ross Chastain are both running Xfinity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gase blocked me once too when he got in a fight with Ross Chastain. They have a history.
Oh, man.
They have a history.
Well, Joey Gase has got history with a couple of people, it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, we got two of the part-timers on that list have both gotten into altercations with him on track.
Yes.
This could be a fun race.
And you know what? I don't have a lot of faith in the DGM equipment, but I got to tell you what, this is very smart of Ross Chastain, in my opinion. Normally, I love the double dip and duty. John Hunter Nemechek, they just don't have a lot of speed right now, it seems like, in the Cup Series. Ross does. So I think this is a brilliant move on Ross and his team's part to let him or find a way to get him in a car on Saturday.
Yeah, even if DGM isn't like, say, top 10 equipment, we know that could at least maybe compete for a top 15, which was the case this past weekend with Josh Bilicki at Sonoma. He almost got a top 15 finish with DGM equipment.
So, very interesting. You're right. In the Cup Series, we got two guys, Kaz Grala, AJ Allmendinger. Honestly, if I was Kaulig, I don't know why they don't have SVG in that ride. This would be a good opportunity to throw him out on an oval. Nobody's been there. Everybody's fresh. Let's see what he can do. But, hey, I'm not the guy in the competition room making decisions, so what do I know?
Who brought funding? That might be a question, too.
Oh, that you're probably spot on about that, Jerry. It's all about the money, man. This is NASCAR. You better bring the dollars.
Absolutely. Trust me, I'm repping a driver right now, and we're trying to get him some experience because he's gonna be a good driver if we can keep him around the sport long enough.
Ooh, well, I look forward to hearing about that at a later date. That's a nice little teaser there.
You can hear about it now. I'll pump.
Let's hear it.
So,
let's hear it.
So, are we done with Iowa?
We just got our picks and bets left, and then we end the show from there.
Okay, well, let's do that, and then we'll close out with my driver.
Okay, cool. So, you know what? Let's get into our DFS picks now then. Let's talk about our top price drivers to watch first. Rich and I, looking at the list, we do overlap on a couple of drivers here, almost exactly.
And to be fair, my other don't mind guy is the guy you have listed, Sean. So we might as well just say we're 4 for 4 again this week.
Yeah, so we have on our list, we have Christopher Bell, Brad Keselowski, and I have Denny Hamlin on my list, but I don't mind Rich's guy there too, Ryan Blaney overall.
And I don't mind Hamlin. So it was a tough call for me for Blaney and Hamlin, to be honest.
Yeah, DFS-wise, I like all four of these drivers for various reasons. I mean, Christopher Bell, he's been one of the fastest when it comes to the short track rules package. And we can't forget on these shorter, flatter tracks, Joe Gibbs Racing has just been one of the teams to beat. And Christopher Bell, he nearly won at Gateway had it not been for those engine troubles there. Let's not forget that was very recent. Hamlin's been pretty much the best driver with like the best average finish overall on the short tracks this season. Brad K, he's been very, very good at Iowa in the past. He's one of the few 3-time winners at this site in the Xfinity Series back when he used to run there. And RFK, I mean, The equipment
They've been
is
good.
going to be very promising there. And then you have Ryan Blaney. Penske's on a bit of an upswing the past few weeks, so I think Blaney could be one to surprise and maybe get some results too.
Well, and if it wasn't for Bell, Blaney about won. I mean, even Bell had the problem. Blaney was on his way to win last week in St. Louis on that flat
2
track
weeks
too.
ago.
You know what I mean? So, or 2 weeks ago. My bad.
Yeah. So, Jerry, what do you think about these lists? Any of these drivers mentioned that you would have your eye on?
I like Keselowski. I like Hamlin. I'm a Joey. I think Joey's a good pick on mine. I would put Joey if I could. I don't know what the prices are. If I could put a 16 DFS together with who I'd love to have, who you might get 4 really good ones and 2 really bad ones.
That's it's kind of what you're going to be dealing with this week, because you're going to have to hit the big dogs. So you're probably going to be able to get at least 3, maybe 4 if you went cheap enough on the other end.
Yeah, you're going to need somebody that's basically a low-level guy to stay out of trouble and get a decent finish, and your big dogs come in 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's doable.
Joey Logano, for reference, he's 9,300 on DraftKings.
He's cheap.
And on FanDuel, he's 11,000. So the price line is not too bad in order to even consider him this week overall.
For reference, Jerry, Brad Keselowski's 9,200. So both of them are cheap. When you're looking at Hamlin, who was the highest price? Was it Larson or Hamlin, Sean, at 11 or 10?
Larson is the most expensive driver on
11.
DraftKings at a flat 11K, whereas on FanDuel, Bell is the most expensive driver at 14K.
Interesting.
So Joey and Brad, you could easily go to Joey and Brad and theoretically have a lot of money left over, because you're saving close to $2,000 from that top end guy. Yeah,
for sure. Yep. So those 2 would be on my team for sure.
All right,
Sean, I'm glad you put your first guy in here. I didn't put him in here because I thought he was priced too high. I didn't think he qualified. So I'm with you on your first pick here.
Oh, getting ahead towards the mid-tier drivers to watch for context there. The first guy that Rich mentioned is Chase Elliott. That's on my list right there. The other drivers that I have are Ross Chastain and Josh Berry. I know you agree with the Ross Chastain call because he's on your list too. But I will also say the
underpriced, man.
Yeah,
way underpriced. 8,300 for Ross Chastain, and he's running Saturday. Like, he may have to be a lock in the lineups, in my opinion, at 8,300.
And then his salary on FanDuel, even crazier, in my opinion.
It was stupid. I got it noted earlier somewhere down here.
It's a flat 8K, flat 8,000, which is well below the average remaining salary usually that they put. Whereas at DraftKings, he is the exact average.
Wait, Ross Chastain raced Iowa in a truck there a few years ago,
and he dominated it, and then got disqualified after leading 140 some odd laps, and the win went to Brett Moffitt.
Exactly, I was there at the race. So who's doing the?
Exactly, that's what I said. He is way underpriced. He may have to be a lock. Like, I don't know where that pricing is, but it is so far out of line.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
he's on my fantasy team.
That and the salary for Elliott, I think the Elliott salary, I think, is a little bit ridiculous, just because he is below that 9K range when we've usually seen him go above 9K most races on DraftKings. He's 8,700 on DraftKings this week, 9,500 on FanDuel. Considering how consistent Elliott has been regardless of track, I think that's well worth the price of admission there.
I posted on somebody's comment, they were talking about drivers for this weekend, and they didn't list Elliott. And I said, don't go sleeping on Elliott this weekend. So I'm with you, Sean.
Rich, why don't you mention about the other 2 drivers too?
Well, by the way, we
said right now, guys.
Awesome, perfect. I got Chris Buescher in this mix at 8,500. We don't have a ton of history with him there, but again, pointing to RFK and Brad and how he ran at Darlington and how he ran at St. Louis and all of that, I think Chris Buescher's worth a look. I was very torn here on who to go with. I looked at Josh Berry, Sean, so I don't disagree with your Josh Berry call here. I think that is kind of a savvy call. I'm going to tell you up front, I cheated a little bit. I went Chase Briscoe because he was the most recent Xfinity winner here. Him being in the news, the Stewart Haas cars have actually shown a little speed lately. So at 7,400, I thought he was cheap, but I can't lie. You made the comment about Penske kind of turning the page. Austin Cindric could be a sneaky little call here because I get he lucked into that win at St. Louis, but he was a top 5 car for a good chunk of that race.
Yeah, Cindric ended up even leading the most laps, I think, behind Christopher Bell in that exact race.
Where's Bubba at?
So, Bubba?
He is at 7,700 on DraftKings, and on FanDuel, he's 7,800.
Interesting.
And then we are all over the place on our sleepers and bargains for the week.
Yeah, let's get right on into that here. So for my list, I technically kind of picked 4 drivers here, but I have Todd Gilliland, Justin Haley, and then Ryan Preece and Eric Jones, because I think those 2 are on the exact same level for me on how much I like them this week overall, Rich.
I was sleeping a little bit on Eric Jones. I missed that, winning in both the truck and the Xfinity cars. I kind of want to revisit his pricing. I like John Hunter Nemechek because at 5,600, he's doing double duty. You know me, Sean. I love chasing double duty. You guys are going to laugh at me, and I get it because it's a wild card and it's dangerous. Give me Ricky Stenhouse at 6,000. He won this race 3 consecutive times between 20. It's been a while. Shoot, I got it somewhere. It's a 2015, 2016, maybe. But he did win 3 consecutive times. It looks like 2012, maybe to 2013. Give me Ricky Stenhouse. I know I'm cruising for a bruising with that, but even at 6,000, it's a little high price, but I can't get away from his history here, and I know it's been a while, and I do have a little love for Ricky. I mean, I tell everyone every once in a while, I did race that race, and we broke the go-kart, and he was so kind to let us, borrow their tools and equipment. So for all the hate that Ricky gets out there, I just don't seem to have it. So when I see that he was a 3-time winner, and I'm looking for anyone with driver history, he jumps off the page at $6,000.
Well, you can also hope that he doesn't qualify well, but he runs through the field and gets a good finish, and he's an extra value there.
Honestly, I would love for that, Jerry. I would love to see him kind of struggling qualifying, and then I'd feel much better about the pick because him moving up 10 spots from, say, 25th to 15th, I would love.
Yeah, I think I would consider putting him on my team.
So,
and
Jerry,
Justin Haley's the free square every week.
Yeah.
I don't know what else we do about that. He moves up 5 to 10 spots every week and finishes. For $5,800, you can't ask for more.
That's true. That's true right there. So, Jerry, out of all the drivers we mentioned for our sleepers and bargain value picks, I know you mentioned Eric Jones earlier. Was there anybody else that you are interested in as a potential value play?
Probably Jones. I've picked Jones several times this year because I know Eric has talent. I know Eric can drive. I feel like Legacy is going to hit eventually. And I think it would be, and I like Noah. Noah's a great kid, but I feel like Eric will be the one to put it all together quicker and also can probably handle the car when it's not perfect better than Noah can. So if you're looking for a driver who's a value, who might not be as high on the board, but and may not qualify as good, but move through the field, I think Eric's one of those guys that could definitely do that. And look, unless he gets lucky, he usually stays. Unless he gets unlucky, he usually stays out of trouble.
It's a good point. He does. He will bring the car home probably 2 to 3 spots better than it probably should, and he'll bring the car home.
Right. To finish first, you must first finish. So wherever you're going to finish, you still have to finish. So he takes that very seriously.
Well, I don't disagree with those takes at all. Like now I want to rethink my value plays a little bit here, Sean.
Yeah, it does get you thinking overall, especially because we still don't have the data from practice or qualifying, which I think for the mid and value tier ranges, that's going to swing a lot of impressions, I can imagine, for sure.
I was shocked to see, in the past, how many people moved up in lap leaders and all of that. And I'm so concerned because of this repave. What Jerry hinted at and alluded to with, he'd like to be wrong, but he's worried. I'm in the exact same boat. Harvick has already voiced his concerns. Look, that man has a lot of years of driving and knows these things. So, I'm worried. But damn it, Sean, we overlap a lot on our bets this week too, dude.
Yeah, we sure did. So how about you quickly rattle off the names there?
Christopher Bell at 4-1 plus 400. Denny Hamlin at 7-1 plus 700. Ryan Blaney 10-1 plus 1,000. Or Martin Truex plus 1,000. These are all, Sean didn't have Blaney, but so far everything's an overlap. Brad Keselowski at 12-1 plus 1,200. Oh, this is where we get different. Sean went with the long shot of Josh Berry at 35-1. I went with Chase Briscoe at 55-1. Teammates, but they are different drivers.
Yeah, I just think between the two, I trust Josh Berry a little bit more because of his short track racing background. And not with this particular rules package, he's displayed a little bit more speed at times than Briscoe has. But I don't dislike the call fully either, especially if Briscoe ends up getting the setup right with his team there this week.
And I'm stealing Jerry's idea of Joey Logano for a top 3 at plus 250. And I am going to use that in the article this week. Oh, no, you got Cups, so I won't have to use that for Xfinity. But I may mention it on the radio later tonight. Just saying. I really love that call. So, and I will give you the hat tip, Jerry.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to bet that one. I will definitely bet that one. You can pull up my sheet.
I forgot how successful he was at all the new paves and all the redone tracks. So my first gut instinct was Kyle Busch or Kyle Larson, because in my opinion, those guys will drive anything with wheels and have success, right? But after you mentioned Logano, I'm like, holy crap, I have a photographic memory. So I'm starting to see the list. I'm like, yeah, I saw Joey's name there. That's right. He wasn't. So now I'm going to have to go back and double check those things. And I think it's a great bet because you don't have to drink the juice on it. So, I mean, you can make, bet $5 and get back, like you said, what would that be? 15?
Yeah. 2.5, 12, 50, something.
Yeah, something like that. So, all right. Core DFS picks. We'll rattle these off quick. Geez, what a shocker. A lot of overlap. Me and Sean both with Christopher Bell at 10,800. Me and Sean both with Brad Keselowski at 9,200. I varied from Sean a little bit. I went with Ross Chastain at 8,300. He went with Josh Berry at 7,800. I went with Stenhouse at 6,000. He went with Justin Haley at 5,800. Pricing on FanDuel is a little bit better. Some highlights. Brad Keselowski's $9,000, $200 less. Bell is $14,000, the highest price driver. Josh Berry is $800 less at $7,000. And Haley is a steal at $4,200. Stenhouse is even cheaper on FanDuel at $4,000. So maybe I just do a FanDuel lineup with Stenhouse because at $4,000, I don't honestly don't care what happens at that price. And we've already covered the other pricing. So that's what we got. If you want to throw in on that, Jerry, feel free. But I'll be honest, I'm interested to hear about this driver.
Well, I'm good with it. I mean, I gave you my pick for this weekend, but as far as the driver, his name's Ryder Wells. I've been promoting Ryder since he was in go-karts, and he's from Lumberton, Texas. Coincidentally, I live in Lumberton, Texas. This kid started off he started off on YouTube. Okay, he was talking to his dad. He liked racing, and he went to YouTube and he found some karting stuff, and he told his dad, "Hey, this is cool. Can I get a go-kart?" Well, he goes out and he wins his races and I'm saying like wins big races. Goes out to the nationals in Mississippi and in Louisiana. He was the Louisiana state champion in karting. He learned how to race karting in YouTube. Okay, so then that's when I met him, was when he was racing karts, and he's 17 now, and I've known him for probably 5 years, 5-6 years. we take him in carts and we put him in micros. Okay, put him in micro sprints. Take him first season, does really well, wins some races. Rookie year goes to the Tulsa Shootout, the world championship of micro sprints. He runs the alphabet and ends up 19th in the A main. First time ever in the shootout. Okay.
Now, for folks that don't know, when they say run the alphabet, that means he's had to work his way through every race. You can qualify and jump right up to one of the mains. You don't always get to do that. You got to race the alphabet. Am I wrong there, Jerry?
Yeah, I think he may have. I think he qualified out of one of them. But after
now,
that,
even still, that at that race, there's like 12 or 15. So I mean, qualifying out of one, you still have a ridiculous amount of races. Like I just want listeners who don't really know what we're talking about to give them a perspective of that's quite a feat just to get through the alphabet to get to the A main.
Yeah, it's like basically GFE DCBA. And so it was amazing to see him do this. So then we put him in a truck. Okay. Put him in a street, what do you call it? Pro truck. We don't have much racing in this type of stuff in Texas. So he was racing at Houston Motorsports Park. He went over to Pensacola and raced over there. He raced in the run up to the Snowball Derby this year when the truck race happened. He finished 12th, should have finished 10th, avoided the massive, like that wreck that happened during the truck race over there this past year. He avoided it. Okay. Other people can't say that, but he was able to avoid it. Now we sold the truck. This is how dedicated this kid and his family is. He does not have money. His name's Ryder Wells. He does not have money. I am his sponsor. Okay. So that should tell you something right there. We are trying to get money together. We've got Seaboard Controls out of Houston, Texas that did throw some money into the deal. And he has now moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. He lives in Mooresville.
Mooresville.
Yes.
I knew that was coming.
His dad still lives in Texas. His mom and him moved to an apartment complex so that he could work for Mike Darn Racing, okay, and do some late model racing. So he's going to race 5 races with Mike Darn Racing, and he's going to race in micros for someone else. And I'm not sure I'm clear to say it. Are we live?
All right, well, don't say it. Don't get anybody in trouble. This is good enough news for us. Hey, as someone that went to you,
he's going to race micros, and not only is he going to race micros, it's with one of the top teams in micros, and he's going to work for that team. And I will have a press release out next week. So it just remember the name Ryder Wells, and he's going to be racing late models. He's going to be racing micros. He's going to get seat time. My goal is to get him into an ARCA race. We're negotiating for an ARCA race on dirt right now. And then if we can do that, we're going to get him into an ARCA race on pavement. And then hopefully we can move him up. He is my retirement plan. So, because once he becomes a cup driver, I'll be his PR guy. And I told him I get 25%.
Nice.
Sounds like a great idea. Just
by the way, his mom and dad get 50%, so he gets to live off the same 25% that I get.
Well, I tell you what, I'll apply with you as a manager, and I will help negotiate better contracts for you all with my sales and buying background, and we'll get everybody double that percentage in dollars than what was initially thought of. So
we'll take it. We'll definitely collaborate. But this kid's got a lot of talent.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to checking out. You can ask Sean. I take a lot of pride in watching some of these younger series. My wife was just talking to me about it the other day because, Kyle Larson has gotten quite a bit of, I'll use hate as a loose term lately, right? They always seem to hate who's winning and doing well. And I'll never forget, right as he was moving to Hendrick, she turns to me and goes, "So you finally going to get off the Kyle Larson bandwagon you've been on this whole time?" And I go, "He's finally in top-notch equipment. What are you talking about?" And she pointed out to me yesterday, she goes, "You realize you've been cheering and yelling about his name before he even got inside a truck or an Xfinity car?" I said, "I know." I said, this is what This is what happens when you're around the sport and you watch anything with wheels that races. I miss the old Thursday Night Thunder on ESPN, right? And the USAC events. Like, I remember watching that in the living room of my grandpa's and grandma's house every Thursday night. I lived for it. I think it was on Saturday before that, or it was after. They did a Thursday and a Saturday at some point. I remember asking my grandpa to take me to the Little Five in Anderson, right? Because he used to run near there way back in the day, right? They were from Indiana. So I wrote the name down. I wrote down Lumberton, Texas. I've got it flagged here, Jerry. So don't you worry. I'll be watching.
Ryder Wells Racing. Hey. Ryder Wells that's his name. He's a good kid. 17. He makes good grades. His mom's a teacher. So she's on him to make good grades. And I really am. I'm proud of this kid. And I'm not getting paid. I joke about taking his money, but I am 100% committed to helping this kid go as far as he can. And I hope some people see this. They can reach out to me and call me because I will do everything I can to get him a decent ride.
Awesome. Well, I tell you what, cool. we'll help out where we can, Jerry. We will. We really will. So, and I'll be tuning in. Jerry, thank you so much for joining us. We got to do this again because there's just way too much information in that head of yours that we didn't even get to tap into. And maybe we do it as kind of a special show. I mean, I'm spitballing ideas here because we could forget the news and notes and just have a roundtable discussion on NASCAR and racing and some of the things you've been a part of and doing, and I'd be all for it. Again, tell everybody where they can find your work. I feel bad. I keep saying kickingethetires.com and it's kickingethetires.net. And it's a good thing my Smartbox computer fixes it for me all the time because I do get redirected or I have to do a search to go to the right page, but I want to make sure we get it right for you, Jerry.
Yeah. Kickingethetires.net. There's a guy that owns kickingethetires.com and he is basically stuck with it. And he should have taken my offer when he did. But that's a longer story. But yeah, kickingethetires.net. You can find them at kickingethetires on Twitter, on Facebook, on
Instagram.
Basically Instagram, all the social channels. My social is at Jerry Jordan _KTT. I have Snapchat. I have Instagram as well, and Facebook is just Jerry Jordan. So you'll find me. And my phone number is 409-498-1074. It's open to anybody. I don't care. Call me, text me. I get calls from fans all the time. I do not mind. If I can't take the call, I won't take it. I'll just text me and I'll get back to you.
You are a brave man and a man of the people, Jerry. You really are. And I have the number and I sparingly use it, but now this poor guy's going to be getting like random texts at some weird times as I'm watching some ARCA race or some Nationals race somewhere on MAV TV at 2:00 in the morning. Dude,
it's okay. I swear to you, my phone number has been public for 30 something years. For as long as I've had this phone number, it has been public. It's on the website. It's okay. I want to interact with the fans. I want to hear what the fans have to say. I want to hear what the drivers have to say. I want someone who might have a story for me to go look into to call me. When I was an investigative reporter, that's how I got some of the biggest stories of my life was by someone just happened to know in my phone number or seeing it somewhere and calling me and say, you need to look into this. That's how I broke the electric car story when NASCAR, when we did that a couple of years ago. There's lots of stuff that I've done that because I put my cell phone number out there and I'm not afraid to take those calls, just that helps me do my job to make it better for the fans.
I got one for you, Jerry, and we'll be texting later. I've got some stuff that I didn't really want to talk about here. Sean and I've talked about it off the record, so to speak. You may have some insight, but I'll be reaching out. We got a little something for you that I think would be worth investigating.
Well, Rich, you can call me anytime, and also you can have me back on the show anytime you want me. I am an open book. I have a lot of free time. I usually am traveling somewhere, but I can make it happen. As you can see, this is the command center. So,
dude, it's awesome.
Yeah.
We were impressed. Like, you were like, no, I got them all set up here in the car. I'm like, sweet. Sean and I were like, wow, we got to up our game here. Like, we need to be at a computer and everything else. So, Jerry, I can't thank you enough. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I have a computer. I have all that. But, I mean, I was like, I've got a bracket on my steering wheel. I mean, you'll see me tweet photos going down the road. I'm not texting and driving. I literally, I can reach over and just tap the phone because it's on a hard bracket. It's not like one of those cheap ones. It's you know, on a true camera bracket in my car, so that I can just take a photo of something, or I can, you know, I can talk to Siri and tweet out. I don't condone texting and driving, and the way I do it, though, if I'm going to do something like that, I'm very safe about it. So yeah, I've got a pretty cool setup in my car.
That's awesome.
We're glad you do. We're glad you do, because it worked out well. Sean, you got any parting words before we take off?
Well, I have to say it was a lot of fun having you on the show today, Jerry. Felt like I've gotten some very interesting insights that I've never really heard previously before, and for that, I thank you, and it's been an honor having you on here.
Well, I hope I've done it justice, and it's been an honor to be on the show, and I want to thank y'all for making it happen.
It's our pleasure. We will have you back, I promise. Thank you again. On behalf of Sean and Jerry, I am Rich Maletto. You can find me on Twitter at Fantasy Bosco. You can find Jerry at JerryJordan_KTT for kicking the tires. You can find Sean nice and easy at Sean E247. Don't get complicated with how you spell Sean. On behalf of everyone at Fantasy Guru, please check out fantasyguru.com. Hit the subscribe button. We have tons of packages. Pick one that fits for you. You don't have to buy everything, although I will say the whole kit and caboodle. And I hear if you're willing to email support at fantasy.com for the all-in VIP, the whole kit and caboodle package, they will offer you a special deal, but you got to ask for it. And don't tell them I sent you, tell them Jeff sent you, because that gets you a lot more clout than me. But on behalf of everyone here at Fantasy Guru, in a part of the Elite Plus Network, check out the YouTube channel. This is the Race Guru Thunder Hour. Until next time, peace.